Welcome back. This is our last class of this season. We went through many things: knife cutting, how to cook carbohydrates, how to cook vegetables, how to make a salad, how to make a salad dressing. And today is like the um, main part for a lot of us, dessert. So we're gonna make some brownies. There are some special brownies, but it's not what you're thinking. Yeah, we have some of the green stuff, but it's not that. It's a spinach. We have some black beans, some pumpkins, um, and a lot of ingredients that are very good for us. When it comes to baking, is you know how we did on the previous classes, previous sessions, that we follow up a recipe. This is, you can also call it a recipe, but when it comes to baking, it's called most like a formula because there's a lot of ingredients that if we put too much of it, then your recipe will not come up. And those ingredients are eggs, baking powder, baking soda. So those are very important ingredients that we have to measure. Remember, we also went through measuring. We used the measuring cups. We use the measuring spoons. And that's something that we're going to be using today because for today dish, it's very important that we measure everything correctly. Like I mentioned, is more like a formula. It doesn't really take a lot to prepare the brownies, but we're gonna take advantage of that, and we're gonna, while they're baking, we're gonna do like a recap on everything that we did. We can go over some of the knife cuts. We can also go over on the items that we cooked, and then, but we can talk about that when time comes up. But the main thing right now is making our brownies. So you got a full recipe right here, and you have some of the how to follow the recipe. We're gonna start with the main ingredients of these brownies, and we're gonna use one of these things, and what is called a food processor. I thought I was gonna forget the name. It's a food processor, or it's also called a rubber coupe, but that's what we're gonna use today. That's going to be our main dispositive that we're going to use to make all these brownies. So like I mentioned, we're going to have some spinach, some black beans, some pumpkin puree. We're going to use cocoa powder, baking powder, sugar, flour, a little bit of salt, brown sugar, and chocolate, and a little bit of water. We may skip the water because of the percentage of water. It all depends. We bought this right here, where it has a lot of water on it, and so we may skip. It's not a lot of water that we need to add, but it all depends how it turns out when it's on the rubber coupe or the food processor. So what we're gonna start doing first, we're gonna pour the spinach that we need, and it's a full cup of spinach. And this is something that we're gonna learn on how to measure certain things. We cannot just grab the spinach and fill it up like this, because it's, for a lot of people, that's 1 cup, but you have to press it down for this one, and we have to put a full cup of pressed down spinach. Remember this one? You can buy this spinach fresh or frozen. We're using frozen today. So this is what we do right here. We press it down, a full cup of spinach. We set this on the side, and we're gonna put it on the food processor. We're also gonna add which is not on the recipe right there, but this is how we're gonna make it today, because we'll be making this after we created this recipe, and it works better like this once we get everything ready. So we're gonna put, along with the spinach, we're gonna put the black beans, which is half a can. Half a can has 15 ounces. So we need 7.5 ounces. And what we're gonna do, we're just gonna fill up 1 cup, not all the way up, just level it, just like that. And we're gonna add it with the spinach. We're gonna get this out of the way right now. And then the rest, we're gonna mix it in the bowl. So we're gonna do this is a little gadget right here that sometimes is hard to get it going, but we're gonna try it right now. Kind of move this off to the side so everybody can see what we're gonna be doing. I'm gonna grab another bowl, a bigger bowl, right here. All the ingredients into the mixing bowl. We're gonna grab one of these wire whisk. Put them right there. We're gonna add the pumpkin on it, which is called also for 1/4 of a cup of pumpkin. So we grab one of these little things that says 1/4 of a cup. Pumpkin also, we kind of just level it, just like that, and we add it into it. We gotta make sure we put everything in there. So we're gonna mix it again. Calls for 2 eggs. So we just put them in there. 1, 2. We mix it all together. You see what we're getting over here? And we mix it until it's all blend together. Now we're gonna start adding the oils and sugars. When you're baking, there's certain cooking methods or mixing methods that you can use. What is just called this one, where you put everything together. The creaming method, where you put your butter and sugar first, and then that's when you're making cookies. But this one that we're making right now is the straight method. We're just gonna mix everything together, not everything at once, but eventually we're gonna get everything in there. So the next thing we're gonna put on it is gonna be our oil. We're gonna put 1.5 tablespoons of oil. Remember, we use vegetable or canola oil. So we put 1.5 tablespoon of oil, and then we mix it all together. Remember, it's a straight method, but every time we add something, we have to make sure that it's all incorporated into it. The next thing we're gonna put is sugar. On this one, we're gonna use 2 types of sugar. We're gonna use just regular cane sugar, and we're gonna put 1/2 cup. We may all think that it's a lot of sugar, but we're gonna have to divide this 1/2 cup of sugar into 16 people. So you actually, 1/2 cup is 4 ounces, so you get in probably 1/2 ounce of sugar on it. We're also gonna add brown sugar, and it's just 1/4 of a cup. If you ever run into, I don't have any, it's brown sugar at home, it is always good to have some molasses that they sell at the, when you're doing brown sugar, we have to make sure that we pack it also, just like we did the spinach. And we're just gonna add it into it. I was mentioning, if you buy one of those little bottles of molasses, brown sugar, the one that they sell you at the store, everything that it is. And you can remember, it's good to read the labels. On the ingredients over here, I don't know if you can see or not, but it says ingredients, and it says sugar and molasses. So you ever don't have any brown sugar, but you happen to have a little of molasses, all you gotta do is just add a little bit of the molasses on it, and you make brown sugar. And this way, if you buy the molasses, then you don't have to buy brown sugar. You just buy regular sugar and you add a little bit of molasses on it, and that'll do it. That saves you some space at your dispense at work. Now we have all this, and you see how it's a little bit liquidy now? So now what we're gonna put on it, we're gonna add the flavoring that we're gonna use. And what we're gonna do is add a little bit of vanilla. It calls for 1 teaspoon vanilla. It is a flavor. That's something that you can add as you want. It doesn't really affect your recipe a lot when you're baking, but it all depends. That's why they have all these almond flavors. I don't know if you can we may add almond flavor on it, some orange flavor on it, rum flavor, and then you get rum chocolate brownies. So what we're gonna add next is gonna be our cocoa powder, which is 1/4 of a cup, which is right here, 1/4. Level it. We add the cocoa powder on it, and we're gonna mix it until everything is blend together again. And what we're missing now, every time you make a recipe on baking, you have to go over your ingredients again to make sure before you put it in the oven, you got everything that we need. We already put the spinach, the black beans, the eggs, the oil, the sugar, pumpkin, vanilla, brown sugar, cocoa powder. We're missing the dry ingredients, and obviously the chocolate and the butter. But we're gonna add those at the very end. So what we're gonna put now is salt. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We blend it all together. Then we're gonna go over with the butter. I already have my butter melted. So we don't have, when you're making something like this, if it's not on the creamy method, we have to do all this, we have to add the butter on it. But it is very little amount of butter that we're gonna use that it will not be able to blend with the sugars. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna put 1 tablespoon of melted butter on it. And we blend it again together. Then we're gonna add some chocolate. I already have my chocolate melted. The best way to melt chocolate is in the microwave. And what you do, you put your chocolate in, if it's chocolate chip, even if it's a big piece, and you put it like for 20 seconds. And then turn it off, and even if it's not melted, you even just flip it around or mess with it a little bit, and then put it another 20 seconds, do it again, and then 20 seconds. If you don't do it that way, then your chocolate, it may burn, scald, and then it's not gonna be good anymore. Do not ever add water into your chocolate. They're like enemies, unless you're gonna make certain, like ganache, when you add milk, but you can add it into it because it has butter on it. So we're gonna add 1/2 cup of chocolate, melted chocolate. It has to be already melted. So what we're gonna do, we grab the 1/2 cup. I melt a little more than the 1/2 cup that we need, because we're gonna do that, use that at the end to blend it all, to garnish or dessert with it. So if you buy 1/2 cup of chocolate, it should be about 4 ounces. So if you go and you don't wanna buy the whole pound of chocolate chips, you can just buy a bar that is 4 ounces, and that's what you're gonna put on it. Now the main part comes in right now, where we have to be careful on how much stuff all the ingredients that we put on it right now, they don't really matter a lot or will not affect a lot of recipe, but only the eggs. If we put too many eggs, then it will be either too wet or it becomes too hard, because eggs, when they cook, they become hard. And it has fat on it, so it's gonna add more fat on it. So eggs, like we said, eggs, baking powder, flour, baking soda, those are the main ingredients that we have to really concentrate and measure as when we're gonna do them. So we're gonna put the baking powder, which is 1/4 of a teaspoon. It's not a lot, so that's why when it's a very small amount, it is very important, because if we put too much, then it will affect our recipe big time. So you see how I fill it up all the way? And all I can do is just go with my hand or use the rubber spatula and just go over like that. And that's what we got, 1/4 of baking powder. And then we mix it all up. And then we can go over the recipe again, everything that we use. The only thing that we're missing right now is the flour. And it's not a lot of flour that we can put on it. And we have decided, and the recipe comes out good. 3/8 of a cup is not on your measuring things. It's not everywhere. So what we put is 1/3. 1/3 of a cup of flour. And I'm gonna remove this right now for a little bit so I can show you something. See, I'm gonna measure the flour and I'm just gonna level it. See, I got my flour right here. I'm just gonna level it like that. And for me, right now, is 1/3 of a cup. But look what happened if I tap it up, just like that. Guess what? I can put a little more flour in there. See how it went down? That's not what we want. That's why it's good when you're measuring flour. If it's called for 1 cup, you just fill it up all the way and then just level it with this. Now you see there's nothing in there. Then if you top it off, then you're gonna add more flour than what is supposed to be on your recipe. And then we're gonna blend it all together again. Just like that. And that's it. We got our mix for our brownies. Now we're gonna use a container. I think it is about 9 inches. It's a square container. It's 9 inches. We don't have to put any paper on it. Or we're gonna use some of this PAM or paint coating spray. And this is what we're gonna do. Put it on the sides first. The best way to do it is when your spray is like this, straight, so that what you need to move around is your pen, not your can. And we put some on the bottom, some on the side. And we get it all together like this. See how it is right there? Something that is very important, and I already did it and I forgot to mention it to you, is I already preheat my oven. And on half of it, we're gonna modify our recipe and do something different. Some chocolate chips on top of that. Only on half of it. You don't have to do it. You can just use it the way we did the recipe. And in the other part, we're gonna put some almonds. You can use pecans, almonds, walnuts, whatever we choose to use. So now that we have it like this, we're gonna go ahead and put it in the oven, and then we're gonna start with our other session where we're gonna do our recap. So we're just gonna put this in the oven. Put it in the oven.